Hi guys, we're going to continue today with standard form and intercept form. So let's take a moment and quickly fill in vertex form because hopefully you remember from yesterday what we were doing. So here's vertex form. Y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. The vertex is h and k, and I'm going to say switch signs. For the y-intercept, you are going to plug in x equals 0. And that's going to give you 0 comma something, right, for your y-intercept. X-intercepts, we found that there can be 2, right, or 1, or none. So far we've had 2, but they're going to be like something comma 0. We're going to use the 1, 3, 5, 7 pattern. Now, standard form is a little bit different. Standard form looks like this. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And in standard form, remember, each one allows you to find a different critical point. In vertex form, vertex is the easiest. In standard form, the y-intercept is going to be the easiest. Okay, the y-intercept is going to be 0, comma c. And let me show you why. Because if you plug in 0, and you have 0, right, for x, that means anything times 0 is 0. Anything times 0 is 0. So 0 plus 0 plus c gives me c. Okay, so let me write that in. So I have 0 squared plus 0, plus 0. Let's write this a better way. A times 0 plus b times 0 plus c. That's 0 plus 0 equal plus c. Right, so do you guys see how, like, if you plug in 0, what you're getting is c. The intercept form is a different one. It looks like this. X minus p, x minus q. And so for this one, it's not vertex or y-intercept that's the easiest. Now it's the intercepts or x-intercepts. And your x-intercepts are going to be p, comma 0 and q, comma 0. And anytime you have numbers inside, switch signs inside. Okay. So the x-intercepts are p and q. Remember to change signs for both numbers inside the parentheses. So the problem is that, like, now we don't actually know how to find the vertex. And we've always said that it's easiest to graph by finding the vertex, right? So let's take a look and see what we can do. Maybe I'll start with intercept form and work my way backwards. So if I know that these numbers here are the x-intercepts, that means this is my p, this is q, right? But we have to switch the signs. So this becomes -1 and this becomes +5. So my x-intercepts are going to be at -1 and +5. And hopefully you remember that the axis of symmetry is exactly between P and Q, or your x-intercepts. Okay, so exactly in the middle. So I can literally count my way to the middle, and we can find that this is here. Okay. Now, if you can't count carefully, you can use, let's see. Oh, find the vertex using, oh goodness. Oh, okay. If you can't count carefully exactly in the middle, there's a formula you can use. You can use P plus Q divide by 2. Okay. And this is for my H value of my vertex. From geometry, hopefully you remember that's the midpoint formula. So let's check to make sure it works. Now, I'm not going to take the 1 and the -5 that I see. I'm going to use these numbers. So I'm going to go -1 plus 5 divided by 2, which is 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And so my axis of symmetry is x equals 2. You guys see how here it's at 2, right? Which means I can now go backwards and say my vertex is 2 comma something. Well, guys, if we have our x value, we can plug in x to find y. And what do I mean plug in x into? Well, I'm going to take the 2 and plug it into this original equation. Sorry, I'm running a little low on space here, so let's do this here. 2 parentheses 2 plus 1, and then 2 minus 5. That equals to 2 times 3 times -3. 3 times 3 is 9 with a negative, and then times 2 is -18. Uh-oh, that did not fit well. Okay, well, that's not working so well for us, right? Because if that's the case, it doesn't fit. So we'll just mark it all the way down here, not to scale. So that means that we shouldn't be plugging in, or we can't use our pattern to count. So to find the y-intercept, remember we can plug in x equals 0. Okay, you can use the pattern if it works, but in this case it just doesn't. So our 135 times a doesn't work. So I'm going to plug in x equals 0. And I'll do that right here. Sorry guys, I'm running out of space. So I'll have 2 parentheses 0 plus 1, and then 0 minus 5, which is just 2 times 1 times -5, which is -10. And so once I have the -10, I'm going to graph it. And if I'm 2 away from this point, then on the right side, right, on the left I'm 2 away, so on the right side I must also be 2 away. And this is our graph right here. This one is going to go like technically super far down, but we'll just estimate. And this is not to scale. Hopefully you remember that domain is always all real numbers. And range is the y values. So starting at the lowest, y is greater than or equal to -18, because my graph points up, starting at -18. Okay. So, let's see. I think what I want you to do at this point is pause the video and try number 2 on the back, okay? Because this is intercept form, and that means it's the same as this one. And here are our steps that we're going to do, okay? So I'll walk you through one more if you need, but if you're ready, I want you to pause the video, do it yourself, and then jump ahead. So for this, right, remember that in intercept form, we start with the x-intercepts first, which are -3, 0, switch your signs, and +1, 0, switch your signs. So -3, +1, and then I'm going to find the middle. So this was our second step, right? And then we have our third step. Maybe I'll put numbers in because that might help you. Okay, so let's do that in our notes. Let's add some numbers. Ready? Start with x-intercept, then that gives me my x-axis and my vertex. Okay. So let's see, I'll find the middle of my graph, which is here at -1. I can literally count my way towards -1, or I can take -3 plus 1 divided by 2, which is -2 divided by 2, and -1. Okay. Please make sure you use the opposite signs. Oh, I don't want to write that there because I'm going to run out of space. Okay, opposite signs here. So not +3, use -3. I'll do it here. That means x equals -1. That means my vertex is -1 comma something. So I'm going to plug in f of -1. That means I have -1 plus 3 and -1 minus 1, which is 2 times -2, which is -4. Okay, so let's plot that vertex of -1, -4, -1, -4. It's opening up, which I really like because I know that it's a positive A. And let's use my pattern of up 1 over 1 and up 1 over 1. That gives me my vertex, right? So, sorry, my y-intercept of -3. I do want to confirm that I got -3 anyways, so I'm going to say f of 0 equals, and let's see, 0 plus 3 and 0 minus 1. That's 3 times -1, which is -3. Okay. So I went up 1 over 1, up 3, up 5 is my next one, and that'll give me my full parabola. Domain is always all real numbers, and range is all the y values greater than or equal to -4, and that comes from my vertex point, remember? Okay. So let's go back and finish up our example 1 now. I'm sorry, I'm moving a little bit backwards. So for vertex form, we could see the vertex right away. In standard form, we couldn't. So we have to find, let's fill this in. Our y-intercept, we have to plug in x equals 0, or the pattern. Okay, so for the x-intercepts, this is the same. We are going to use the pattern for our x-intercepts. For our intercept form, to find the vertex, we found half distance between x-intercepts, or we did p plus q divided by 2. Okay. Here we have a new formula. This one we're going to use x equals -b over 2a. And then you have to plug in x to find y. Okay, so I'm going to circle this formula, circle that formula, things to see. So let's fill this in. We're going to identify the vertex using x equals -b over 2a, then plugging in to find y. So your vertex is going to be -b over 2a, and then we're going to plug it in, so that's f of -b over 2a. Hopefully that's not too complicated sounding. Okay. The axis of symmetry is always your h value. Oh, I should use this one as h equals instead. Right? So same as your vertex. That means it's going to be that number. To find the y-intercept, you're going to plug in, oh no, this is the one where we said it's really easy, right? When you plug in 0, everything disappears. 0, 0, only c. Use the pattern, multiply by a. Okay. So the only new part about this is -b over 2a, and plug it in. So let's do it. So the vertex, we start here. Okay. We're going to do h equals negative b over 2a. Now, what's a, b, and c? A is this first number. B is the second number with the sign in front of it, so positive 4, and C equals to the last number, which is 5. We know our y-intercept is C. So it's going to be 0, 5. I'm not going to graph that yet because it's a little bit confusing when we do too much at once. So negative stays, B is 4, 2 is always there, and A is negative 1. Please use parentheses carefully. So I'll be negative 4 over negative 2, which is positive 2. Well, we're not done, unfortunately, but we do know the axis of symmetry is at 2. So now we're going to take this 2 and plug it in. Negative 2 squared plus 4 times 2 plus 5. And so that's negative times 2 times 2 plus 8 plus 5. Negative, notice there's only one negative, so that's negative 4 plus 8 plus 5. This is 13 minus 4, which is 9. And we have all our points. We know our x-intercept is going to come from our pattern. So let's graph it. Ready? 2, 9. My pattern is negative 1. So it's going to be negative 1, negative 3, negative 5. Negative 1, negative 3, negative 5, negative 7. Axis of symmetry goes down the middle. Down 1, down 3, down 5, down 7. Okay. So our x-intercepts are at negative 1, 0, and 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Domain is all real numbers, and range is all y values lower than 9. Y less than or equal to 9. Okay. Pause the video at this point. Try the next one, or if you need to hear me explain one more time, I'll be happy to explain the problem. Okay, so here's where you try. We are going to call this standard form. And our vertex, we need to use the formula. H equals negative b over 2a. So I'll go h equals negative, b is 2. There's a 2 always, and then a is 1 here. So negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. I'm going to take that and plug it in. And I have negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 8. That'll be negative 1 times negative 1, which is positive 1, minus 2, minus 8. Let's see, 1 minus 2 is negative 1, minus 8 is negative 9. So I'll have negative 1, negative 9. That's down here. Axis of symmetry is x equals negative 1. Y-intercept is always the last value with no x, so it's 0, negative 8. Uh-oh. Okay, and that's right here, which follows our pattern. Okay, so up 1 over 1, up 3 over 1, up 5 over 1, up 7 over 1. 1 backwards 1, 3, 5, and 7. The x-intercepts, once we used our pattern, was at negative 4, 0, and 2, 0, right here. Domain is all real numbers, and range is all y values greater than or equal to negative 9. That concludes today's video. Let me know if you have any questions.